We are live. How you doing today? Welcome to Soaring Prophets Thursday Night Live with the amazing Gio. Gio, when she was a young girl, loved drawing, botanicals, abstract art, surreal art. And she did that for a while when she was younger, and then she got kind of moved into a corporate field job where she did a corporate job for a while. I assume she wasn't happy in the corporate job because that is not what she does today. She transitioned into this wonderful art that she does, and I can't wait to show you how beautiful it is. There's so much gorgeous art that she does. So she does art projects for people around the world. She uses pens and markers, and she I just lost my train of thought. Anyway,
you were
so
fantastic at this introduction piece, bro. You're killing it. You are
great. I got derailed. My brain just shut off. But so what I'm most interested in, Gio, and this is exciting for me because I talk about this all the time. In fact, I think today's message that I made that I'm going to put out tomorrow is about this. It's about, if you're not living your passion, you should transition to your passion. So what's the point of living a life where you're unhappy, you're not enjoying yourself, when you can make just as much money, do just as good things by living your passion, as long as you do it in a planned way. So I'm interested to see how you went from a corporate job, which obviously I would assume corporate job sounds like you make a lot of money, into your art world. And how would you transition into that and have the beautiful smile that you do today without stress?
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for having me. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it was a big transition for me. So I'm from Brazil. I grew up there, and I don't know if you guys know, like there's like some cultural differences like here and there. Like in Brazil, I grew up knowing I had to go to university and I was gonna work in a company, like a corporate job. Like it was that or a very low wage kind of job. It's very different than here where you kind of can make money in any career. Like you can make money with the trades, you can make money as a hairstylist. Like in Brazil, you kind of like the only way is to go through those like university route, right? So I always loved doing art. It was like my passion. My whole life, my parents knew, everybody knew it was my thing. But then it was approaching that time to decide what I was going to do for college and everything. And I heard it all the time, like, you're not going to make money with art. Like, you're not going to make money with art. So you're just not going to. And then I tried going through like the closest thing to like, I tried going to creativity. So I majored in marketing and I was like, I'm going to do advertising because it's creative. Like I tried and ended up falling into this it was a venture capital firm and I was working there for a few years. Right after I finished university, I was doing like more money than all of my friends. It was like a great job. My parents were super proud talking about my new job to all of their friends. It was like this great like idea of success that I had in my mind. Like I thought that was success, like I thought that was winning in life. I was living on a nice apartment by myself and I had this nice job and I was, working. My life was work. Like I was just working. Nothing else existed. like, and I think that my dad was actually the first person who noticed that I was really unhappy. Like I would go back in the weekends to their house that was like another town, and he would tell me like, you're are you okay? Like I think you're a little lonely, like you need to find a boyfriend or something. I was like, I don't have time for anything.
Right.
My job is amazing. I thought I was happy, but he saw that I was kind of like my light was kind of not shining very much. Isn't that funny how like some people just hint that to you, right? Yeah. And then I had a breakdown one day and I quit. Didn't know what I was gonna do.
Right.
Yeah.
People that like truly know your soul, that can see inside you, that they just know when
right,
something's off. Like what's different about you, and definitely a parent would know that. And
right.
I think it's beautiful that he although he's super proud of you and he knows you're in the direction that any dad would want you to be in, because you're set. I don't have to worry about you anymore because you're going to have money. You don't need a man to keep you safe or like pay your bills or anything like that. Not that you need a man anyway, but that's what I'm going from.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And so I totally see that. But him saying that to you, that kind of derailed you, had you thinking in other ways. But what then? Like, did you have a plan? Did you go, okay, I'm going to sit in this corporate world and I'm going to develop a plan? Or did you just go pull the ripcord? I'm out.
Yeah, so that was 2017 when I like decided, okay, I'm not gonna last on this job. I'm gonna stay another year and I'm gonna make a plan, right? Like this was the plan. But I'm a little impulsive, and I like, okay, so I had some money saved, which like I think if I didn't have money saved, I wouldn't have the courage or the, I don't know, like the impulse to just quit, right? But so what happened was I did a Reiki class. You guys know what Reiki is?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because Denise's maybe father-in-law one day is a Reiki master.
Yeah. He's a Reiki healer, exactly. And I was going through like this life crisis, like I don't know if I like this job. Like, what do I want to do? Like, I used to like art, but I haven't picked up a pencil in years and years. Like, is this actually a path? Like, maybe there's something else that I have to do. Anyway, like, it was a crisis. So like, I'm gonna do some like self-development and self-search, and like enrolled in this Reiki healing class. And they said in the class that after you take the first like I think like a first certification or whatever, you go through a 21-day period where everything in your life kind of like starts falling into place by itself, because you kind of like align with the energy of the universe. I don't know. But I was like, okay, 21 days, let's see what happens. Maybe in 21 days I will find exactly what I want to do, and I'm going to have the energy to maybe decide. That was a Sunday. Monday, I broke down crying in front of my boss, and I don't know, like I was really close to her, like she was really nice. And I was honest with her. I was like, I'm really unhappy. I don't know what I want to do, but it's not it. And I have to leave. And I kind of like made a deal with them until they found another person, trained a new person. So I stayed a few more months, which was good. So I made a little more money to be able to make this transition. And when I quit, I was already like picking up the pencil again and doing a little drawing here and there, posting on my Instagram. And just like random people out of nowhere started like asking, like, can you do a portrait of my son? Can you draw my dog for me? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, how much do you charge? And I was like, I don't know how much I charge. Yeah, right? But it started like that. I remember this one guy that was from this company I worked for. He was like, can you do a portrait of Steve Jobs for me? Like, I really like Steve Jobs and I want to get it autographed and blah, blah. That was, he wanted to get the autograph of the Steve Wozniak, the guy. Yeah. Anyway, and it was like, kind of felt like a sign from the universe, like, this is it. Just keep going. And I started doing these little commissions here and there. One of my mom's friends asked me to do a drawing on her wall, like trusted me. I had no experience on drawing on walls. And like, she was like, can you do a drawing on my wall in my office for all of my clients to see? And I was like, yes. And it just started from there. Like they just kind of flew into something. And I was like freelancing for the whole like beginning, like three years. The beginning was like just freelancing, nothing else. And then during the pandemic I started teaching online, and then there was a big change to this like online world that I kind of like am more passionate about than just freelancing. So
now did you find, Gio, that so obviously you've got a passion and we just showed your art there, fantastic looking art. But did you find that the marketing background was interesting, where you were able to bring some of your education piece, tying it into some of the passion, and then executing on that? Was that helpful?
100%.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Like I actually felt so guilty for a long time because my university, like my parents paid for my university. And I was like, I'm suddenly quitting this job and I'm going through, and I was like, my parents put all this money for me to just throw all of this away. But now thinking, like in during university, like I learned how to build a business, and I use that knowledge every day building my own business. So it's like I'm just not going through the traditional route, but I'm using all of this knowledge, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. That's amazing. So you talked a lot about fear. That you mentioned fear, 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 fear. So that's a thing that a lot of people doing transitions have to battle. And also, like we've talked about people who want to go public speak. We talked about people who are asked to do something in their job at random that they're like, whoa, wait a second, I don't really know what I'm doing there. Like, but still jumping in. Did you do something beforehand to combat that, or did you just like put the blinders on and go, I got this, I'm going to do it? Just like use your sheer will of confidence that you've built inside over the years of doing like the corporate world. Obviously, there would be times when you were like, I don't know if I belong in this room, but you just, bring yourself to it. Or was it like, okay, I'm going to talk myself through this. I need to do these things.
right, that's a great question. I think there was like two things. I in this whole period of like me quitting my job, I kind of came to the realization that I was living someone else's life. Like I was living to, I don't know, fulfill someone's expectations, not even my parents. They didn't really care. Like I don't even know why I went through that route, but um I realized that I needed to like learn who I was, what I liked, how I actually wanted to live. And I was like, I, my life is gonna end one day, and like I can choose, and the time is now. Like I have to start choosing what I actually want to do in creating my life. And I really connect with this concept that we create our own realities, and that's like a big drive for me. Like whenever I'm going through a phase where I'm complaining too much, or something's going, or I'm confused, and I'm like, wait, I can choose anything. If anything was possible, what do I actually want? And yeah, I'm big like into manifestation and all that. And I just went through this phase of like doing a lot of meditation and getting to know myself, and doing a lot of like inner work. And I'm actually big into, have you guys heard of theta healing?
I think I have.
So it's an energy healing technique that works on your subconscious mind. It does like it replaces your negative beliefs with more like better programs. Basically, like we all
Yeah.
have beliefs that make us like live this life,
Yep.
but some of them are like we're carrying from our past. Sometimes it's from our parents, and it's just like really replacing to the new model of life that you want to live, right? And I am actually an instructor of this. I thought this at some point this was going to be a career for me too, but in the end it's art. I can't run away from the art. I tried many times to run away from the art, but it keeps coming back. So it's art. I give up. It is art.
Yeah.
But so theta healing helped me a lot, because you can like do it with yourself. And yeah, it
So,
really helped me find
sorry,
the
Gio,
courage.
are you calling it theta?
Theta healing,
Theta
like
Theta
healing.
healing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
theta, like the Greek letter
Yeah.
theta. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I was doing something similar to that when I like part of my, it's not just this, I also do like videos about self-help and self-healing and weight loss and stuff. And I created this domino journey. And part of that is replacing the voices from your past
Yes.
and with positive voices, because as you go through life, you have the voices of your dad, you have the voices of your mom, you have the voices of the schoolyard kids, you have the voices of, and they all affect you in some way. And what you have to do is alter them into a new kind of wording. So if they, like,
Yeah.
for me, big fat guy, when I was younger, my whole life I was a big fat guy. So like when I look in the mirror, I hear all the voices of you're a fat asshole, right? But I've changed that because now I can look at myself and go, no, no, no.
He's just a thin asshole.
I'm still an asshole. That has not changed, but I'm thin now, right? And you work on changing that voice, and it takes time. It takes, like you said, you got to meditate, you got to think about it, you got to discover the reason why that voice is in your head, find out where that stems from, discover why it's like that, and change it into a positive voice. So I totally get what you're saying, and to use that to remove fear of doing new things is pretty impressive. So what would have been the hardest moment in your life? Like the part where you're like, oh, I'm not sure I can do this. Like when you're doing art.
Mm.
If you mentioned a couple of things that people asked you to do.
Oh, that's a big question. The hardest time.
Yeah.
I think I had many confusing times, many
Right.
very confusing times, which is hard. It's hard to be confused and not know your next step. That's really hard to deal with sometimes because, like, we live in this society that really asks you for a direction. If you don't have a direction, you're a lost person, right? Like, you need to have a direction. It's so stressful. But I think now that I have a very clear direction, I know exactly what I want to do. I have like a month plan, a year plan, a 5-year plan, a 10-year. I know exactly.
Nice.
Now it kind of like there's all this factors that don't depend on me, which is kind of like my audience and my clients, and it's just like it's really easy to compare myself to other people that are doing similar things and to feel that I'm just not good enough. You know what I mean?
I do.
Especially
Yes.
now that I'm doing this content creation thing, like you guys know, right?
Yeah.
With the
Yeah. Yeah.
podcast and everything, like just being in this online sphere is very overwhelming sometimes. And living in Canada, everything's so expensive, and I'm like financially, I'm still not there where I can say like, ooh, I can like, you know, I work full time, but it's still very tight financially.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you know, I have a growth plan,
Right.
but it's stressful.
Well, and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of where James is saying is that how do you transition? Like you were saying, is the structure that we're raised in is that okay? You got to get into the best school when you're a kid, right? So you go to the best
Yeah.
elementary school, and then you want to get to the best high school. And if you don't study, you're not going to get into the university that you want to get to. And then if you don't get to the good grades in your first year, well, how are you going to get into the master's program? And those structured things that society kind of dictates to us. And James, there's been a theme with all the things we've been talking about here as well as that the transition piece. And James is really enjoying this because this is something that I think he's innately doing himself.
Yes.
And the questions that he's asking are those really tough ones about what is the prime mover? Like what is the thing what's the first domino that snaps and you're like, I'm done. This is my day. I start tomorrow. This is won't.
Oh.
And how do you get to that point where you have that conversation with your boss, like you said that you had with that woman who you respected and liked, but are like, I'm done? How do you get that? How do you move to now where something where financially, like you're saying, is that yeah, you don't have the big RRSP, the 401k, but you're good, like you're okay, right? It's not that you're starving artist; it's that
No.
everything's fine, and
Yeah.
to be okay with being fine. You don't have to have
Yeah.
a mansion on the hill. You don't have to have the oceanfront property. You can just sit in yourself and you can just be, I'm fine. And I think that's the question. But this is not just a question for you, Gio, is that this is something that I watch James and I watch him ask everyone that's done this and that has taken this stride. And I think that's the big question is that how do you, and I'll put this back to James, what are you finding out with these questions that you've been asking for these people? Because I think you're seeing where I'm coming from on these.
So what Pat's talking about right here is that he and I have been having these chats because I'm on the cusp of like changing. I've been on a journey since, funny enough, young lady, 2017.
What's happening with the stars?
I don't know.
We need to look at the Saturn.
There was another person that we interviewed that around 2017 they had a life change. So something happened in 2017, and I'm not sure. But yeah, so and it's been getting tighter and tighter and tighter because I although I do enjoy what I'm doing, and I make really good money doing what I'm doing, I am ready to go on to the next step, and I don't know what that is yet. I really enjoy Soaring Prophets, but it hasn't been taking off, so I'm trying to push it. So I have been finding out that most people that have made the step have a solid destination, but no plan to get there. All the people I've talked to is like, I know what I want to do, and I'm just going to go do it. And then they go do it, and then it just works out, because that's how life works sometimes. You just make it happen as long as you're committed to it, and you're not going to like sit around and not work at it. You know, like if you said, I'm gonna do art for the rest of my life, it's gonna be great, and then you went, quit your job, and then you just sat and went, I'm gonna watch Netflix now because Netflix is good, which is not what you did, right? You worked hard. It's about working hard. So that's what I've discovered, Pat. And yeah, no. So we've been having those talks because Pat thinks I'm a little nuts.
Crazy.
But, yeah.
Well, so, and I think, Gio, it likely goes back to a conversation that someone in your life, you know, you were talking about your father, and James and I, we talk a lot about our fathers on this podcast. I recently lost my father. James lost his father. And, you know, there's something with a father-son relationship or a father-daughter. I have a daughter where you look at them and you go, you're not okay today. Like you just like, I got it. And there's something innate about that. And when you had your father come to you and go, you're not okay, that was a prime mover, if you will, that allowed you to go, you're right. Because otherwise you probably would have continued down the 9 to 5 and just kept motoring. And that's kind of goes that question of, you know, what is that? What is that instance in your situation? And we've had lots of people that have done similar type things where they've decided this is what it is. But it's like, I've wanted to do art. I enjoy art. I love art. Now I'm going to live art. Like that's a huge step.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive to be able to jump and do that. That's impressive. So
especially art. Like, I'm not trying to disparage art at all. I think art is wonderful and great and fantastic, but it's kind of like acting. You're one in a million people doing it. So like you said, when you're looking online, it's like when I look at podcasts, because I watch a lot of podcasts because I'm trying to learn how to do, art, Soaring Prophets better. But as you watch it to see, how do I do this better? You're like, oh my God, like I'm nowhere near what these, like they got microphones and they have all this tech and like cool camera angles.
Right.
Yeah. So like it can be overwhelming. So for you to be able to be successful with it. And the coolest thing that you said there when I was listening is I'm a big fan of tech. And I love how tech has grown. So for you to say Mike Wozniak, you drew it, and then someone took that picture and got it signed?
Yeah.
So have you seen the signed copy of that?
I haven't seen it. It's been many years.
Oh my God.
The guy took years to be able to get it. And then I kind of like, we lost contact. I was like, please, when you get it, like show me. And like, we still kept in contact for a few years, but then I just lost contact. I don't even know if he got it.
Like, this guy, random guy going up to Mike Wozniak and going, dude, I just have to have you sign this picture. And he'll be like,
I know, right?
I got it from Gio.
I know. Amazing.
That is so cool. And now that you know Mike, get him on Soaring Prophets.
Steve.
And yeah.
Right?
Either way, whatever. Just go, hey, Steve, what's going on?
Oh, yeah.
All right, just kidding. So not only do you do beautiful art and you do compositions for people around the world, you're also on the teaching side. I noticed on your website here, Pat will throw it up for us, that you offer online classes. How did that come about?
Yeah, so that kind of started during the pandemic because so there was like a big life movement of me moving to Canada. I got married to my amazing husband who is Canadian. I met him while I was traveling. I was backpacking, he was backpacking, and then we met and we were like long distance for a while, and then we just decided to get married during the pandemic so we could be together. And then I moved to Canada, and moving to Canada, I was like during the pandemic specifically, where it was, lockdown, and like I had absolutely no work for quite a few months. And then I just started looking on YouTube, like how to make money as an artist, basically, like alternative ways to make money as an artist. I started an Etsy shop that I don't talk too much about because I need to, update. And then I found Skillshare, which is a platform where you can teach creative classes, and they have all sorts of classes. And I created a class for them on February of last year, so 2021. So it's gonna be 2 years in next February. And it basically became my new my new amazing passion. It's like I'm
I love
obsessed with creating videos now. Like it's a
it.
whole new turn of this business. Everything just fell into place when I started doing Skillshare, and I started making more money. And like they pay me in dollars, because before I was kind of living in Canada making money in Brazilian currency. It was like almost nothing when you transfer. And then I started making money in US dollars, and it's just everything just started falling together. I was like, my audience is I align more with my audience, like North American audience a little bit. So making content in English instead of Portuguese, to like, it was this big shift. And yeah,
Right.
and then recently I started 9 months ago ish, I started my YouTube channel too, which is another obsession. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Well,
make
it
no money
sounds,
with
it
my
sounds
YouTube yet. So
How did you like that first video? That first video where you saw yourself talking. How did you like that?
oh, it's a joke. It's so bad. It's actually my most popular class to this day, but it's awful. The audio is awful. The video, like the camera, I didn't know anything about camera, so I put everything in autofocus, and I was filming my hand drawing. It
Right.
focused completely on my hand and not on the drawing, so the whole class is blurred. And I posted it anyway. Like, I needed to be really brave and just like push through the perfectionism. And it just, people don't care so
no.
No.
much. People,
So yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So Pat and I did like this little course. It was with Kevin, and that was basically what he said. I'm sorry if my Wi-Fi is not syncing right
No,
now.
it's
I look.
great.
Yeah. So what he really stressed was you just start filming, just start
Yeah,
talking, just start moving. And you know what? With every video, you learn something. You learn like the camera
yeah.
thing. Absolutely. We learn lighting. I learned not to look up my nose when I hold the camera, and simple, stupid. You don't have to be all complicated, right? But the stuff that you're doing, though, like I've looked at some of your YouTube videos, they're beautiful. Like just the
Oh,
setup that
thank
you have in the
you.
room and the way you
I'm
draw,
working so hard.
uh, like the whole setup is pretty artistic. So like I know we often will like ask our good friends, take a look at this, let me know. Pat and I are talking to each other all the time. Like he's giving me good criticism, I'm giving him good criticism. Is there someone that you go to besides obviously Justin? Is there someone that you go to that you're like, you know what, a mentor kind of thing? Because I always believe, like I talk about it, you should have a mentor. Like if you can find someone who's doing what you're doing, perfect. Whether that's in video, whether that's someone you can actually talk to, great. But is there a mentor out there that you seek guidance from?
That's very interesting you ask. I should get a mentor. That's a great idea, actually.
Good. Everyone
I'm
should.
I'm very bad at I'm very like working doing everything by myself, which is horrible because I'm very overworked, and I'm getting to this workaholic time of my life because I'm obsessing over everything. And I'm trying to like start to delegate things and hire some freelancing people to help me because I can't do everything by myself. But like this whole thing about getting a mentor is also a thing. I don't know. I think I have maybe indirect mentors. Like I watch some people on YouTube that I really admire, and I almost feel like they're mentoring me. Like I listen to what they have to say and they help me.
Yeah.
But I don't have like a person that I go to, and I should have. That's a great idea. How do you get a mentor?
Well, so
James is available.
I am available, but I know nothing about
Okay.
it. I write poetry, if that helps at all.
Oh, that's
Some
amazing.
spirits have heard it. But no, so mostly
I didn't know
like
that.
what you're saying, like so that's part of this like domino journey that I talk about is that you watch videos. Like you watch videos of the people that are doing it. So maybe
Yeah.
they you want to make money, you watch videos of people who have already made money, or
Yes.
you talk to people who have already made money. Like there's nothing wrong with like contacting someone who is doing art like you are and just go, hey, so you're doing this, and ask them a question, see if they answer. And then you can start a relationship with them, right? It's not as hard to get a mentor as you think. Like you don't have to walk up and go, can you mentor me? It's just about asking those thoughtful questions, those answers that they've already been through. They've already lived that life. Like, so we had Ross on last week. Ross is a radio personality. So he used to do radio in Vancouver, I believe. And then where was it?
Calgary.
Calgary, very close. They both start with B.
Ross.
Ross.
Yeah, sorry.
And then he was into marketing, and then he was into, so like we started off camera, like because we always talk before and after, and we started kind of picking his brain. What do you think about Soaring Prophets? And he started giving us some really good advice about directions we should go in and stuff like that. And he was an unlikely mentor because he's not doing YouTube. He doesn't do video. He doesn't do anything like that. But he's been in the marketing world. He knows how to get a group from the age of 19 to 26 interested in a product, right? So that is like really
that skill.
So you're right. So that's the interesting thing about asking a mentor. It doesn't necessarily have to be in the art world. It can just be someone who's achieving, succeeding, and doing things that you need done. And you can ask.
As well, James, kind of what we were talking about a little earlier in regards to what James is undertaking right now in his own life, is that he's having conversations with people like you.
Yeah.
Right? So in a lot of ways is that, here we are, we're interviewing Gio tonight, but we're taking something away from this for our personal lives and having those conversations. You feel, like you're being interviewed. We get to understand a little deeper into somebody that's made those moves and done those things. And it allows us to kind of sit back and go, that's kind of an interesting perspective on that. I haven't really thought about that. And I think that as, hosts of this show, it allows us to kind of kick back and contemplate on a different level than if you were just somebody sitting there watching, right? We can ask us questions. We can, personalize them, put them to ourselves. And I think that's a fantastic opportunity that we've been allowed and been able to put together here. So it allows us to interview all kinds of different people, get a perspective, and then, well, what did you do when this happened? And that's where James is right now as well. And well, we all are. Like I'm saying James, but we're always transitioning into what's next. So
well, I know Matt right now is transitioning into what's next. He's got he's moved on, kind of removed himself from one area of business and is ready to launch himself into another. And who knows, soon maybe he'll start a franchise or
that's cool.
Buy a giant, I don't know, skyscraper or something. So getting back to you though, Gio. So you talked about before, I believe we were on, that you're not planning on staying in Canada, right?
Well, I'm kind of, I don't know. The future is a mystery because like Justin, my husband, for who doesn't know, I'm here in Canada because of him. And when I met him, I was actually traveling in Europe to find a place to live in Europe because I wanted to get out and do something different. And then I met him, and then it became Canada. Like I never crossed my mind that I was gonna live in Canada. So
one more time, where?
What's that?
How do you say it?
Canada.
There's a little accent. I love it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Is this the first time you noticed my accent? That's actually a compliment.
It's subtle. It's there, but it's subtle. But
it is very subtle.
Canadians, we have a. We have our little linguistic, tongue twisters, if you will, and just the way that you threw out Canada. It was good.
That's funny.
Good.
Yeah, but for someone who knows 2 languages, you're doing great.
Thank you.
So we had Denise on, who was a good friend of yours, and she kind of had that same kind of journey where she was like, I don't know, like she was traveling around, not particularly deciding to move to Canada.
Yeah.
But then kind of ended up in Canada.
Right?
Yeah. Isn't that odd? And then you guys met
each other
because like I assume you met each other because of the fact
Yes,
that
we're
you're
good
both from
friends, me and Denise.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
probably because you're both from somewhere else. And so I know, because we had Justin on, all the profiteers know that Justin has this big plan, and I'm pretty excited about it, that he's going to open the surf shop in Brazil.
Yeah, so it's kind of, it could be anywhere. We've been looking
Right.
into Nicaragua lately because we went to
Oh,
Brazil after you guys talked with
Right.
him to the
yeah.
podcast. We went to Brazil like a month ago for a wedding, and we were looking into property there, and we found this like land that was like perfect in the perfect place, and but it was full of, it wasn't perfect because was full of this like license, like environmental licenses that you have to
Really?
take
Oh,
off
okay.
the trees, and it was like, and
Yeah.
my dad works with construction. My dad was like, run as fast as you can, this is a nightmare, you don't want to get involved. We went to the city hall, we talked to engineers, we're
Yeah.
trying to figure this thing out, but like we kind of had to go back to the drawing board. So the plan is there to move and to live in a place where we can have like a more natural and healthy life. I also miss this kind of like more like I think it's just, it's climate, it's food.
Sure.
Also things here, like my quality, I notice my quality of life here in Canada is lower because of money,
Sure.
because
Yes.
everything's much more expensive.
Right.
So it's just like a life where we can both have like a higher quality of life. There's nothing keeping him here in Canada anymore.
Right.
Nothing keeping me anywhere because thank God I'm building my work online, which is part
Yeah.
of the dream.
Yeah.
So yeah, the future will tell, but it's a thing for, I guess maybe the goal is like in the next 2-3 years to not be in Canada anymore, but I don't know where. It's a
That's
mystery.
Right. Yeah.
So
That's
where
really
were you
interesting.
from in
So,
Brazil originally?
I'm from Campinas. It's like a big city, 1 hour from São Paulo,
Okay.
which is kind of like the Toronto of Brazil, like the business center of Brazil.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you folks traveled down there for the wedding, was that kind of the rough area where you were?
Sorry, the rough area?
Yeah, was that kind of where you went back for the wedding, or was that somewhere else in Brazil that you went
Yeah,
for the wedding?
it's like 4 hours away from where my parents live or I grew up.
Okay.
So it's a well like developed place. It's a beach area with, there's 100 beaches, and there's like waterfalls. And it's like this beautiful. It's like a beautiful area. Like, but I don't know.
Now,
It's
how did you?
it's so much about feeling, right? Like,
Right.
like when you go to a place and you're like, would I live here? Like, would I build my life here? Like
yeah.
you kind of have to get the feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Now, how
You
did
have
you?
to find that
Very-
feeling.
How did
I
you?
think it's very different for sure, because like I lived 2 hours away from where I live now, and it's nothing different. It's pretty much the same kind of thing. I lived in a small town called Markham. Now I live in a small town. But to leave and go to like Brazil, or like you coming to Canada, like Canada would be so different. Like I imagine our mannerisms are different. The way we do things
Oh
is
yeah.
different, right? The way
Yeah.
we probably interact with each other is probably different. The things we talk about is probably different. Definitely, what everything costs would be different. So yeah, that was to really like just decide, you know what, I'm just going to go move to another country, and that's going to be my new place. That would be really difficult. So I think like it sounds like what you're doing is you're like, okay, we're going to go to Brazil. And so you go to Brazil, you try it out, you check it out. And like you said, you look around and go, could I live here? And then maybe next time you'll go to, I don't know, Ireland. I'm just grabbing things from the top of
Yeah.
my head. Obviously, you're not doing that. But you go to Ireland and then you check it out. That you're just not, you're not like, you know what, let's just go and land there, right?
Yeah.
Like how do you guys pick where you're going next?
I don't know. I personally think we need to travel. I think we need to go and see the place. Like there's only so much online research we can do. Of course, we can do research to know where to travel, but then from there we kind of have to go see the property, see the crime, see the grocery store, see the nightlife, like kind of have to see the hospitals, like
Yeah.
right? Because if you want to build a life in a place, I don't know.
Well, that was a question
big-
that I was going to ask you there. Is that coming from Brazil, And again, we hear a lot in Canada around how beautiful Brazil is, but how dangerous as well. Like there's, you know, I want to say, and it's not the slum, but it's not. It's the Brazilian.
Sorry, my dog is barking at.
There's a name for like.
If I just open the door for my dog because he's barking. Can you guys hear it? Just 1 second.
So you're looking for a Brazilian gang? Is that what's going on?
There's a name for it's like the slums in the
favela.
Sorry?
As favelas. Favela.
Say that one more time.
Favela.
Favela? So, I know that
that's how we call it.
When we've watched things, like especially when the Olympics were occurring, they would talk about some of the beautiful, like the commercial areas, the high value, we'll call them, right? The economic heartlands of Brazil. And then you'd have the cities in the hills. I can't think of the term. It's not the one that's coming to mind initially, but it was kind of like the ghettos and the crime rates and the problems there. And as a Canadian, when we hear about that, you go, like every nation, every country around the world, that you have your pros and your cons. But, you know, a guy like Justin, who's obviously he's traveled a little bit, but for him to like uproot and then just end up in the middle of who knows where, Brazil, that's again, that jumping off point, that making that change, that opportunity, right? So I guess yourself being from there, you have a bit of an experience. But when you talk about, say, Nicaragua as a country that you've really probably never lived in, maybe traveled to, but how do you immerse yourself enough to be like, yes, this is what I want to do. This is where we want to stay. I guess it is like you're saying, is to go and experience and try it, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like is this thing that you guys say about crime. There's all just like generalizations that we see in media, right? Because like if you go to Brazil, there are places where I would not recommend people to go. Like Rio right now, why go to Rio? There's much better beaches with much better everything and not dangerous, right? Like in Rio, you're gonna get robbed probably if you're not like if you don't have that like street smart on you all the time, and it's annoying. So like I don't like going to Rio, you know, but there's so many other places, like when we went to Ubatuba, which is this place that we went to see this land and stuff, super safe. Like we didn't feel danger in any moment, you know. So it's like there are places and places, you just have to kind of know where to go and like be smart about it. Like you're not gonna go into an alley at 3 a.m. by yourself speaking English or being a girl, you know, like.
Well, I think there's something to be said by that. And it's funny because we've had other guests on in the past that have done some traveling. And I think it comes down to being a parent. So like myself, like I've got a young daughter, and it's like my radar is very different than what it was 15 years ago.
Ooh, interesting.
Right? Like the things that I would have done 15 years ago, hang on to your hat. And now it's like, I don't think we should do that.
That's hilarious.
You get that kind of like spidey sense. The antenna starts coming up and you're like, I just don't need to go there. Never again do I need to do that. So
no, it's totally true, because like once you have children, you have like responsibilities and you have to be around for them. So like you might like run down into that dark alley with your friends just for fun, or go check out, like someone goes, hey, you want to go to a house party? You've never met them before. You're in Brazil, in Rio, and they're like, hey, you want to come to a house party with the 8 guys that I just walked in the room? Yeah, man, let's go. Let's do it.
Yeah.
But as a parent, that your mindset changes and you're like, this is probably a bad idea. I'm gonna, and it gets even worse when I imagine your dad is like on pins and needles all the time. I know I would be. You know, with my kids, I have one in Halifax, which is a very safe city, and one in North York, which is not as safe, but still the area he's in is safe. And it's a constant thing in my mind that, you know, I keep on making sure they're good. And, you know, you hope you give them all the street sense advice that you're talking about. But what you're talking about in Brazil, the same can be said here. Like we have places in my small town that we're natives. He and I wouldn't walk down. We just wouldn't.
Yeah, right.
Tonight at noon, we'd walk through there like throwing a parade. But when it gets darker, you don't go anywhere near these places. Same in Toronto, same everywhere. So I totally get that. But news nowadays, especially if there's like an Olympics or whatever. So do you think that the media coverage of the Canada put out or the States made that overblown? Like, yeah, we have a problem in Brazil, but come on, it's not that bad. There's not like armed people on every corner. Like, do you feel like they went out of their way to make Brazil look violent?
No, I wouldn't say out of their way. Like there is crime, like the sense of danger is a little different here than there. Like same here. I wouldn't go at 3 a.m. here to an alley here in Canada, right? But it's different. I don't know how to explain. There is a little bit more danger in Brazil in general, but it's just like Brazil is just so big, just like Canada, right? Like there's so many different areas with so many different experiences. I remember when there was like a flooding that happened like a few years ago, and all of my new friends here from Canada were like, "Oh my God, are you okay? Is your family okay?" And like the flooding was like 3 states away from where my family is. Like, like no one even, wasn't even a thing where I was from, but like everybody was like, "Oh my God, the one person I know from Brazil, is she okay?" Like, it's so nice. It's so nice. But like, it's kind of like,
it's funny you say that, Gio. I have a friend of mine who lives down in Miami, and with Hurricane Ian that just went through there. And, we're watching it all. And she's, throwing up these lives on Instagram. And she's like, I can clearly tell that CNN is driving people crazy in Canada, because I've got uncles that I haven't talked to in like 3 years. And they're like, "I'm coming to get you. I'm coming to get you." And she's in Miami, like with a Starbucks, walking the dog, going like, "It's not bad. Like, it's raining. It's raining, but it's like, we're okay." And I'm sure, obviously there's devastation and there's problems there, but it's not everywhere, right?
Exactly. So I don't know if this is the media's fault or just like we tend to see one scene and not see any other scene and then assume that that's all there is. Like, I don't know. I think so.
Well, I think it's,
we talk a lot about here about the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah.
That if it bleeds, it leads. So they have to put this sensationalism constantly out. And then that drives fear. It drives newspaper purchases. It drives pay-per-click. It drives all those things. And we sit back and we just absorb it all as in like, "Oh my God, Brazil."
Right?
Why?
I know. And CNN is not going to film your friend with their Starbucks walking their dog. So it's like, it is happening, but CNN will not show that part of.
No, they show the message that they want you to see. And
exactly.
Unfortunately, a lot of times it's a skewed message, and that's why we talk. So we talk about a lot on here, and you know that because you watch us all the time. We talk a lot about how you should get your news sources from multiple locations. Don't just news source from CNN or Fox News. Like, dig deeper than Instagram news outlets. You need more information, because if you're jumping to conclusions, you can do a lot of damage to yourself, to your family, to other people. So you must want to know what's going on in Brazil. How do you find that out?
Well, that's a good question. I confess that I'm not a very I'm not into news. I've never been. I've always had people tell me you need to learn a little bit more about what's happening, but I'm just not really. What I know is happening right now in Brazil is the election. There's going to be a presidential election, and it's going to be very historical. So all anybody talks about right now is this election, and I do get some information on Instagram from this in more independent newspapers that used to be unbiased, but now they seem to be super biased. Everything I'm reading is on one side of the conversation, and I'm like, I don't even want to see this anymore because I feel like I'm being brainwashed. So I'm kind of frustrated right now with, and it's all this this whole like I can't believe we're talking about politics, but it's always like polarization.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. Like
no.
even
it's things. It seems like our governments, especially in Canada right now, the leaders of all our parties are trying to divide us. They're trying to separate us, trying to make us angry at someone so they can get popular vote. So if they can make us angry at the other side enough, then we will drive the vote towards them. And it's so frustrating. And so like, because Canada has always been a nation that worked together, whether it be world wars or like we just had a flooding, like a pretty bad storm. It wasn't a flooding. We had a pretty bad storm here in this town that I live in. And they were like hydro trucks from other provinces coming and helping out, because that's what we do in Canada. But yet, if you watch the media, it sounds like we hate each other. That that we don't want to help each other. That you have a different opinion, so therefore you don't deserve to be in Canada. Get out of Canada. And it's the craziest thing. And I wonder if that's happening in Brazil for you. Like I didn't know that, so I'm sorry, I didn't know that there was an election. You mentioned it's historical. Why is it historical?
You guys remember the car wash scandal? It's like a corruption scandal that happened. I think
I'm interested now, but no.
five that I don't know math, but like years ago. So
is this with Bolsonaro?
It's a long, I had. So right now our president is Bolsonaro.
Yeah,
you guys heard of him?
Yeah.
So he is a very like center right military kind of guy. Loves Trump, so you guys get the gist of him. People that are more like like the business people in general tend to like him because he has this more conservative approach, all of that, right? Like we know this is a stereotype. I don't need to tell you more. Before him, we had this political party in Brazil that ran for, I think it was total 12 years. This political party was more like center left, and they did a lot of social programs to help the people. So there was a really good time for Brazil during that government where a lot of people came out of like extreme poverty, and it was an actual thing. Like people's lives were actually changing. Like I know personally people who were impacted by those social programs. So like I see how good it was. Like it was a time where Brazil was really well seen internationally. Like Brazil had a good image at that time. That was like around, I'm gonna say 2012, maybe before, a little before 2010, whatever. Anyway, in the end ish, like the last 4 years of this center left government that was before Bolsonaro, the car wash scandal broke loose, which was like this investigation, this corruption investigation that was, I think, billions of dollars being embezzled by the whole government and all of the construction companies. It was a joke. It was like insane. So like everybody that's like a taxpayer was like, fuck these people. No, I will vote for anyone who is not them, right? So who was anyone that wasn't them, that was like the strong candidate, was Bolsonaro. So a lot of people just don't like Bolsonaro but vote for him because like they don't want to vote for this the center left party. It's called PT. I'm gonna the name of the party, okay, just so you know,
because they figure
so just are you guys interested? I can
I'm really interested, man. Keep going.
Okay. So the president, that was this like super amazing president that the people love because they gave money to people, and I personally know it was really good for the people. Actually people saw their lives change, like in this lifetime, not in 30 years from now. So like I can see the good side of it. Whatever. This president, his name is Lula, and he was arrested. Have you guys seen this? He was arrested for like, he was in jail for maybe 2 years or a year and a half or something like that because of the corruption. But then he was able to be released because he was judged in a wrong state, whatever. There was a whole thing. Now he's not in jail and he's running for presidency again.
Wow.
And people love him. People love him, even though he was the president while this whole insane corruption scandal happened.
Yeah.
Like, he's not exactly directly proven to be involved,
Sure.
but like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
yeah.
If you didn't know, you should have.
You should have known. Yeah. There's two problems there. Either you were in it or you should have known that it was happening.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Either way, you're not a president. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's very cool. So do you think the election will turn to more the PT? PT or
it's
TT?
looking like the researchers, the polls are saying that it's going towards this guy. And people really don't like Bolsonaro because he's just ignorant in his speech. Like, I understand where he's coming from, but the way he speaks, like he just says some stupid stuff that just puts himself under the bus. Like, he needs some like media training.
Right.
But he's not a media training kind of guy. He's very
well, so Brazil, like from a geopolitical and like economic standpoint, Brazil is a nation that is an up and comer. Like, when I look at, the geopolitical issues around the world, like I look at the fall of China and the way that it's in a lot of trouble right now. And I've been saying for a long time here, well, basically, I think when we started this podcast about 6 months ago, I'm like, we're in a recession. We're in a recession, everybody. We're in a recession. And now
felt that way.
It's been a long time fucking coming, but here we are.
Yeah.
But like China right now, the whole world is pivoting their manufacturing. And South American nations, as long as they have, the structures in place, as long as you can keep the hydro on, you're not dealing with rolling blackouts, as long as you can deal with the energy, you're going to have an opportunity to take a massive portion of the, manufacturing hub of the world, China, as they come offline. And that's where I think, an election like that, in Brazil right now is going to be huge, because if it's going to be a, more center left, is that going to drive economic power, or is it going to push? Like, if you have a situation where
exactly.
And I know we're getting into the politics stuff when we said we kind of wouldn't, but if you have kind of a center left,
I started it.
Yeah, I blame you. Yeah.
It's my fault.
If you have a center left and you're looking at corporate tax rates and you've got a tax rate at 30%, and IBM or Google or whoever is like, hey, we want to come. Oh, we're not coming.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So this is where they're fleeing China because China's falling apart before their eyes. Apple, is putting contracts together to leave China with Foxconn about getting all their products made in India. There's a number of different sites that they're looking at right now. But South America is going to be a huge opportunity and long-term growth. Whereas if you go with a more right-leaning, tend to be more conservative, more economic supporting, is that going to in turn allow for those social programs later? And I think that's probably the big question of, what this election will end up being. That'll be really interesting.
So you talked about, sorry, was there?
No, I have nothing to say. I agree. It's going to be interesting. I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know what I want to happen. I'm like,
I was wondering about your politics. So you have a left kind of side. So it's the same in America, the same in Canada. So in our area, our left is more like gay rights and native Canadian rights and Indigenous rights, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they more lean to. Our Conservative Party is more about having less government involved, less taxation, more like let's bring some businesses back to Canada to start influxing growth. Is that the same in Brazil, or is it different? Like the two parties, how did they kind of run? What are their differences?
You are approaching territory I don't know, but but from what I have been talking to Justin and seeing what's happening in Canada, it is very similar in the sense that I guess like the center right. Like we don't have too much of like an extreme right or an extreme left. Everything is kind of like in the middle a little bit, but like the center right has more like conservative approach to everything, you know, more into saving money than spending money, and um yeah, and the I don't know, to be honest. I feel like I'm gonna say ignorant things because I just don't
Okay.
know much.
We're gonna have Justin soon. We'll ask Justin when it happens. So
Yeah.
getting back to your art, what are the next steps for Artsy Geo? Because that's what you call your website, Artsy Geo.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. So what are the next steps for Artsy Geo?
That's a great question. So I have so many ideas and so little time.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate. I have so many ideas. I don't know. I need like 30 people working for me one day. Who knows? But my plan is to keep working with Skillshare and creating content.
Yep.
I want to really grow my YouTube to be like this super cool place where people can go and just relax and make art, and we can just be friends. And I don't know, it brings me back a lot to my childhood, this kind of work that I'm doing, because like art was kind of my safe space in my childhood. So it's kind of like I want to create that to people and we can have tea together while we make art. Yeah, that's it. I want to keep creating content basically.
Yeah. Well, I think the model that you're doing as well, like obviously it's something that whatever you guys decide to do in the next while, you can do this from wherever, you know,
exactly.
It's a remote system, and that you have the foresight to build that. I think a lot of business owners or business people, they end up trying to figure out what their widget is. And then later they try to figure out how to step away from that widget the day, I call it working in versus working on the widget, right? So it sounds like what you've done is that you started off by working on your widget instead of working in your widget, so that your widget can be anything, right? You're doing classes, you're doing content, you've got a number of streams of revenue that are allowing you to be able to pull this down the road while you work in and then on it, right? So I think that's really cool. Like your art is fantastic. When you look at what you're doing here,
thank you.
Myself, I may as well have like 2 left hands.
Depends on markers, then. Like, this
cool.
isn't paints and like that. That is with, well, that's with paints.
Yeah. But mostly like I'm trying to niche to the pen and marker thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing about niche too, like find a niche.
James, you've always wanted to have a nude done of yourself. Do you think Gio would be interested?
I'm gonna go with
I don't know if that's the kind of my agenda is really
I'm gonna go with
life size.
I don't even want the people that I feel intimate with to see this fully. So
terrible.
I'm never going to get a drawing to put on my wall. So that's
bronze. Do you work in bronze, Gio?
Bronze. That would be fun. But no, so I did notice, like when I was looking through your classes, because Pat, I don't know where you're going with what you're saying. I was looking at your classes and it was talking about art as a therapy. Could you tell me a little bit about that? I'm interested in like, how do you use art as a therapy?
I'm trying to find what that is too, but there is something, you know, do you guys have sometimes like an idea, but the idea is not ready, but like, you know, it's there, but like it's not completely ready. So I have this thing that art is healing, but I haven't found a way to bring that to my audience yet. And I'm going to figure out as I go. So I'm just going to do it until I find out. But it's like, it's either people like can experience healing through making art, but they can also experience healing through having art that speaks to them like in their space. So I don't know exactly how to combine those two things yet, but I'm building something. Like I'm thinking about implementing, like I love like meditation and doing this like all self work and like journaling, and I'm gonna try to incorporate that into my YouTube channel soon.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. No, well, it's totally true. Like, so I know at one point I was doing what is called, it's almost like meditation coloring. And what you do is just like circles and stuff like that, and you just color, and you do whatever colors you want, and you do whatever you need to. Another thing that I once did was it was actually in a class, but like a high school class, and it was they played music, and then you drew how you felt, like how did that music make you
Yeah, I
feel.
love that.
And it was just interesting because everyone had a different take on how music moved them or how it made them feel, and there's some therapy to that. Because if then you can look at it and go, well, why the hell did I draw a dark circle? Or why did I, draw this beautiful scene or
Exactly.
whatever?
It's
And then
fascinating.
it's a talking point that you can converse with that person and go, okay, so like over here you have two people. What are they doing and why are they doing it? And I bet there's like a therapy aspect to that point.
This is it. Yes, I'm very, very excited with what you're saying because that's what it is. Like this, what it. I love this. Like I love that I can draw something and then look at it and then pick a meaning or a learning from it.
Right,
Like this is fascinating to me, but I still haven't found exactly the way to bring that to my. I
right,
feel I did some classes on it. Like I tried
yeah,
creating classes where like we do a meditation and then we create an illustration, or there was one that was like a body positive one where you create patterns inspired on your body and then you create an illustration on it. So
right.
like I've been tiptoeing into this area,
Yeah.
but it's just very interesting. This is very cool what you're saying, the
I know my
music and everything.
counselor because when I walk into her office, I have to walk by her like children area, and it's all filled with like paints and pastels and I know that on her card it says art therapy.
Mm.
But maybe I'll ask her and see like what's art therapy for her, and just maybe I'll let you know because I
Yeah,
really
definitely.
don't know a lot about it. I just know the few things I've touched upon, and like sometimes with meditation, you build a vision in your mind,
Hmm.
and if you could draw that after, that would be kind of cool too. Anyway, I think what
Yeah.
you're on next is pretty exciting stuff because people are trying to find, especially now, are trying to find ways to heal themselves. We have so much idle time nowadays. Like we don't have to work a 12-hour day on the farm. So our minds, unfortunately,
Yeah.
just roam. And when they
Yeah.
roam, tends to, if you do not have a strong upbringing, or you don't have a strong mission, or you don't have, you're sitting around watching YouTube all day or watching news all day, your mind goes into a dark place.
Hmm.
And I really do think we need things like this, like art therapy and meditation and stuff like that, to like get your mind centered, to get your mind in a more beautiful place. Because when you're not happy, uh, it's not a great thing.
Right.
And there's way too many people in this world not happy right now.
Yeah.
I think on that note,
Definitely.
though, it was lovely talking to you, Gio.
It was
I hope we can
nice.
chat again. I can't wait until you're in Brazil or Mexico or the Congo. I don't know. I don't know places.
Maybe.
Geography is my barrier. Uh, I couldn't even tell you where Brazil is. That's the sadness about me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
I know
think
that
you can.
I'm
I
terrible.
think you can, James.
I know where
If I
Russia
show
is.
you a map, you know.
Yeah, no, if you showed me a map, I
I'm
would.
gonna do a map quest with this boy over here. Solve this.
But the conversations that we've had, we even talked about politics, which she was like, I don't want to talk about politics. But the knowledge that you have on politics in Brazil is really good. Like I'm sure maybe a Brazilian would be like, "What's she talking about?" But
Yeah,
that's how
maybe.
That
that's
was
how they
good.
look
Oh,
at
you did a
me.
great job.
That's how they look at me many times when I talk about politics with Pat. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, what's he talking about? So I think you've done a lovely job, and you're a wonderful woman. I am so glad that you came on. I'm glad that Justin introduced us, and you know what? I know why Denise loves you, because you're just like
Uh,
her. She is my morning sunshine. She does this wonderful Instagram post every morning, and it's always beautiful, and it's always like upbeat, and I can see that
yes.
about you. You have that joy in you, and thank you so much for sharing it with us. So now we put you on the spot. You saw it on with Justin, I'm sure. So at the end of each episode, we say like our motto, like we say a little goodbye, and then we say like a couple of words or a saying or a phrase, which is our motto. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go first, then Pat will go, and then it'll be all you. And it don't be too stressed about it. It's
Please.
whatever comes to mind. Just blurt it out, and it will be on YouTube for life. So you don't have to stress about it. For the rest of your life, people will be replaying this. They might even make a meme of it. Don't stress about it.
It's gonna go viral. This specific part will
I
go
hope
viral.
that would be awesome.
Make or break, no pressure.
It's manifested.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Soaring Prophets. Next week we'll be doing another Thursday Night Live, and you know what? We have a lot of really exciting guests coming up. They're diverse and exciting, and I hope you join us every Thursday night. It's such a great thing to have these conversations with people, and you know what? I always look while we do these for comments. As of yet, we've only had the one comment from someone's husband at one time, but it would be great if you guys started commenting. Gio, like I said already, you're going places. You're amazing. I love you, and I'm so happy that you came on, because I know this isn't an easy thing. And profiteers out there, as always, let's heal our minds, bodies, and souls together.
Again, Gio, thank you again. We always appreciate fantastic people that get to come and tell their story. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave it short and sweet. We're going to put Gio on the spot here for her little sign off. As always, folks, thank you so much. We will catch you guys next week, and let's make some money together, folks. You're up, Gio. Don't let us down.
Oh my God, no pressure. My motto, just before I say my motto, which I still don't know, hopefully will come by the end of the sentence, but thank you so much for having me, guys. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for the opportunities. It was so much fun. So nice to talk to different people. I work in this like very lonely environment making my art, and it's nice to talk to people. But yeah, I guess if I would say something like, it's like a lesson, like a
anything. What do you think?
It can be, I like McDonald's. It doesn't matter.
I don't like McDonald's, actually.
Nice.
Don't eat McDonald's. Don't eat McDonald's. That's my motto.
I love it.